Greetings, and we're beginning a workshop on online spiritual gaming, taking the gospel to the uttermost parts of the world, the virtual world that is. And today, have a kind of a roundtable discussion with a few guys you'll be introduced to in just a little bit, and just partly because of this crisis we've been through, but also it was asked what would be a good topic, and I made the suggestion. And then they said, well, why don't you just do it? So, and have some help with Kolbi, Shartzer on this as well. But basically, our topic today and what we're going to be talking about has been birthed out of, but you will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes on you, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria and to the ends of the earth, Acts 1:8. And that verse came alive in a different way as a result of things that have been happening in my life anyway, and realizing that the virtual world is part of that area that we need to be reaching out into. And so we're putting together a little discussion about how we can do that, develop an online presence, and then maybe also have some insights into maybe how we can improve for those who are already involved in it. And we're just going to try to give you some things that will help you, let you know that it's an important part of ministry, becoming more and more important as the longer this thing goes on. And I hope to give you a little bit of an idea of what's out there, and understand and know this. So what we're ignorant of, we tend to fear, and a lot of people have a lot of ignorance when it comes to tech and online stuff, and so they fear it, so they don't want to do it. But the more knowledge we can have, knowledge is power. I remember that statement from when I was a kid. But just wanted to give you an opportunity to hear what some people are doing, and maybe let that inspire you and encourage you to do this as well. And at the end, we'll bring in some conclusions here, but for now, just this little introduction, and then we'll have these guys, you'll see them in just a moment, and they'll give you some things of what they've been doing, maybe answer some questions for us. Today, we're coming together with a few guys to talk about developing and maybe improving our online presence as churches, and maybe some things for beginners, but also maybe some things that we can share as we've gone through this crisis, if you will. But some guys that Kolbi and I are both on leadership development team, and we kind of got voluntold that this was it because I answered a question about what do you think would be a good topic to talk about, and they said, oh, that sounds good, you do it, Mark, and Kolbi, you help. So that's why I'm here. I'm not the expert, and of this panel here, I will tell you, at least on my screen in the upper right hand corner, Tanner Perkins from Damascus Friends Church, he's the expert. But I thought it'd be good to have some different views from different sized churches as to, and even different locations as to how things are going, and just kind of talk about this, because the reason for my thoughts on this topic was, of course, what happened with the crisis, but thinking about Acts 1:8, where it says we go into all the world, and it says to the uttermost parts of the earth. That's the last place to go. If you're into Star Trek, it's the last frontier. And I just started thinking, right now we're being pushed into the virtual world, and it's evangelism in a new way for a lot of churches. Some, like Damascus and others, been involved in it for a while and doing it well. But we want to look at this, taking the gospel to the uttermost parts of the virtual world, if you will. And so I have a few questions I'm going to ask these guys, and I'll just let them answer. I'm going to kind of MC this for a little bit, and then maybe bring a conclusion a little bit later after we've closed this time. But first question for these guys, and if you want to introduce, most people I think know you guys, but if you want to introduce yourself when you answer a question, feel free to do that. But question one, I guess, why do you think it's important for churches to have an online presence, virus or no virus? I mean, the virus forced us into this, but I think, at least for me, I'm seeing, and I've seen and thought about this for a while, that even if the virus wasn't here and we weren't homebound in certain places and all that, there's a need to be online and have an online presence to reach people with the good news. So why do you think it's so important for churches to be online?
So we were doing Facebook Live for a couple of years before we even got into this whole COVID-19 stuff. And we found out that we were actually doing it sort of illegally. We didn't have the proper CCLI license to stream the music. So we shut it down for about 3 or 4 months, maybe 5 months. And then decided to get it back up and running and pay for the license, because it was really inexpensive. We thought it was going to be more, but it was inexpensive to get that license. And so, so we went ahead and got it. And the thing that we found, even pre-COVID, was that we were reaching some people that maybe used to go to our church. We're in a big military community in Hampton Roads. And so some people that had left here and gone other places, they could still connect with us online. And so it was a great tool there. Now, during the stay-at-home order, it's really helped us get to reach people that I have personally heard them say the words, "I will never step foot in a church." And these people have been attending our church since Easter, and here we are in July, and they're still attending online. They're not stepping foot in a church, but they are still attending online. And so it's a great opportunity to reach these people that maybe have been hurt by churches and don't trust churches. And I think that some things have changed, where they said that the website was the front door to your church, where people would check your website. Now they're going to check your Facebook page. They're going to watch a service to see if it's something that they're even interested in coming to the building. And so it's just, and the price is right. I mean, if you're just doing Facebook Live, it's free. So that right there is a big reason why we started doing it here at Portsmouth First Friends.
Kenny, how about you?
Well, I was just thinking, Jesus' geographic strategy for spreading the gospel was Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, to the ends of the earth. And, at Deerfield, we want to try and emulate that in our community, our city, our county, our state, but then also to the end of the world. And I can tell you, as we've been streaming, and we don't have a lot of money tied up in it, at least when we started, we didn't. It was very, very basic. As Kolbi said, we were streaming Facebook Live. We had people that were tuning in from South Florida, from Virginia, Washington State. We even had people in from Europe, South Africa, and Belgium. So we were actually global at that time. And so I agree with Kolbi. It is a new digital doorway to your church, but it's also a way for us then to, at least complete what Jesus had said: Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and now the ends of the earth. And we're just doing what he laid out 2,000 years for us to do.
How about you, Steve?
I don't have much to add. When I came to Bethel Friends, which was just 3 years ago, our website was outdated. And so I redesigned it with WordPress, and I started getting sermons on podcast. I've always benefited from podcasts. And so I thought, it's a free thing we need to do. When a number of years ago at my last church, I was told by a website developer, a Christian website developing company, that the sermons is the #1 link people are looking for when they go to your website. And so now, just to kind of go on what Kolbi said, I think that probably became, like he said, about going to social media and checking out a worship service and seeing how that would fit. The other thing I think about this, and I think we just started, I started podcasting December 2017, and then we started Facebook Live in mid-March. And I kind of think, why not? These are things we need to take advantage of. A few years ago, I think 3 years ago at Yearly Meeting, Elmer Towns was a speaker, and I think he said something, he paraphrased Jerry Falwell saying something like, we need to use every avenue to declare the gospel. Jerry Falwell was starting Liberty, and he saw radio towers and thought, how do I get on the radio? We need to use every avenue to declare the gospel. I think of the Apostle Paul in the first century, the Roman roads, and most of the world spoke Greek. It's like the right time where he could take the gospel to all the known world. And we think of what we can do with social media, and Kolbi said the price was right, and it's true. We got a camera donated to us. I had to spend a little bit of time, and I've spent a lot of time fine tuning it. Tanner's helped us, but in reality, we didn't put a lot of money into it. And it seems to me like, because everybody's doing Facebook Live stuff now, people aren't looking for the level of professionalism, which kept me away from that stuff before. Before, I did not want to look like, a low budget church thing doing it. But now, I was at a youth conference a number of years ago, saw Mark Matlock speak, and it was at the beginning of YouTube. And he said, with the YouTube generation, people aren't looking for as much professionalism when you make videos. And that's helped, where you can have one camera just kind of connect to the sound system, videoing the service. And the other thing is, with the COVID-19 crisis, people certainly aren't looking. You have every excuse in the world just to get it going, even if it's not as polished. So anyways, I think a very somewhat easy avenue to get the gospel out. And I don't know if that adds on to anything else, but those are my thoughts.
Tanner, how about Damascus? I know you guys, it's more than just Facebook Live with, getting that presence out there. What do you see? How do you see the importance different for you guys?
So to start, really, online streaming wasn't even something we ever really wanted to tackle before COVID, because we just kind of figured it would take away from our experience here, from people coming in and that. So it was really, COVID really challenged us to do that. And we had to figure out, how do we bring our worship experience home? So that really led us to stream to, I'll start with, we do simulcast on Facebook and YouTube and our website. Okay. And that gives us 3 platforms for people to be able to be reached on. And we actually saw a lot of people go to YouTube for us. And I think it's just being able to pull it up on your smart TV, that really just, right in your living room, you can watch service and be a part of it.
Yeah, that's and I'm going to tap into that here, since Tanner brought that up. What other platforms do you guys know about that people might benefit from? I know one that I looked at, but I didn't get into. Seemed like, as you said, Facebook Live was a right price and easy to get onto, but the livechurch.com, it's connected to the Bible app. It seemed like it would have worked really well if I had started there first, but I didn't. But are there other platforms? Tanner brought up YouTube and being able to do it on your own website and those kind of things. Do you guys know of any other platforms that people can use?
I don't. We're kind of the opposite of what Damascus and what Tanner experienced. We started on YouTube, and it was one more login that people had to create, one more account that people had to create, and they already had a Facebook account. So we went on YouTube the first 2 weeks of our stay-at-home order in March, and we had like 16 people talking back and forth. There wasn't much interaction at all. So that we decided, and we pre-recorded as well for those first 2 weeks. Then we went live on Palm Sunday. We went live, and we went Facebook Live. Didn't go to YouTube, just went to Facebook on Facebook, And we had over 100 and some interactions, chatting back and forth during the answering questions that I was asking, and telling them to post this or say this or comment on this, and they were doing that. And so we found that Facebook Live for our audience, for our congregation, was the best route for us to take. But yeah, I know a lot of people doing on their website, on Facebook, and on YouTube, and Life Church. Yeah, using the Life Church platform. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about. The churchonlineplatform.com is where you can get hooked up to it.
And we use that.
Use that too?
I think our website redirects to there, and that's what we use for.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. Thinking about more equipment type things. Are there pieces of equipment, maybe Tanner, this might be directed at you first, but I know Kenny has he has his toys there too, but what are some necessary pieces of equipment that you would recommend to people as far as if they're getting started? What do they need to do a good job, not professional, but good job at gaining that online presence?
I'd say the first thing is definitely a good camera that has good HD quality, because I know I was helping out Winona Friends a little bit, and their original camera was just a tiny little handy cam, and it just wasn't cutting it for their quality. Like, they wanted something new, so I helped them out with that. And then you also need just make sure you have good internet bandwidth for upload speeds, because that will, if you don't have good upload, it'll glitch out and people won't be able to watch. But probably the third thing is then you need basically a streaming service to help you get to your platform online. And with Steve at Bethel, they use OBS, and I've worked with that a little bit. It's a good platform. It runs on your computer. You just have to make sure you have the right cards and adapters to make that work. And then Kenny, we actually got him a Blackmagic Atom, I forget the exact model, but a little switcher, and it has streaming to Facebook built into it.
Oh, so that's built into that box.
Yeah. So they can actually hook up more than one camera to that, so they can switch between cameras and stream it all, or even their Pro Presenter, and they can stream to Facebook. And I do know that the latest edition of Pro Presenter 7, they just released a built-in streaming from that too, and you can hook your camera into your computer and easily stream your video with lyrics over it.
And that Pro Presenter is you purchase that. That's not a free.
Right. Yeah.
When you get to the Pro Presenter 7, you're probably paying a little price.
Yeah.
Annually. Okay.
But you also get to run all your slides and any other content, so it's probably worth it.
Yeah.
Hey, Mark.
Yes.
If I could add to the previous question.
Sure. Yeah.
When we started it, I was doing Facebook Live, and I think there's something called Restream that my brother's church uses, which allows you to stream to YouTube and Facebook together. And I tried that, then didn't want to mess with it. And around the same time, Outreach.com, I think it was Outreach, put out a thing which you could sign up, and it basically picks if you're streaming to YouTube or Facebook, one platform, not both, it'll put it to the website too. So it was a free service which we got set up through Outreach. So those who aren't on Facebook can just go to a link on our website and see the video as well. So that's how we ended up doing that. I'm really grateful for Outreach for doing that for free, and that's really helped us a lot.
Yeah, I think a lot of folks are looking for the free thing, especially to start out with, because we had to get to it so quick with this. But down the road, I think as you get into it, you find that there are things you run into that you think, if we just spend a little bit of money like that the Blackmagic box that Kenny got, it'll make it a lot easier for us, and it'll just make it better. Which leads me to I got two more questions, just kind of real quickly here. What are the biggest struggles and issues that you've dealt with as you've developed that online presence during this time?
Oh, just having personnel, available to help you walk through it. We may be able to prepare a message that's, effective, but we're not everything. I'm not a tanner. So, I pray every day, God, send me a tanner. Every now and then, he loans me a tanner. But that was our biggest challenge, of having a technical staff to help walk us through it.
Yeah, if I could add to that, we had the same problem. I had to organize my schedule to get some extra time to figure things out. And then when there's a problem, like last Sunday morning, the worship team was trying to practice. They were trying to record it so they could hear what it sounded like, and it just wasn't working. And I was actually teaching Sunday school at the time, but also streaming that to Facebook at the same time, so I couldn't help. Not that I would know what the problem was. So they got my wife, who knows a little bit more. They couldn't figure it out. So it's 10:38. Our service starts at 10:45, and I just said, "Well, I'm going to try streaming it." And praise God, it worked. I don't know why, but it wasn't. It was recording video, but no sound. Even though the sound system, I don't know. I had somebody once say demons live in church equipment, and I told the congregation we might have to do an exorcism. But if being able to figure some of this stuff out, especially when it happens at bottom of the ninth inning, so to speak, to use a baseball analogy, especially right now, because we want it. 50% of our congregation is relying on that. At least we're open, but still 50% of our congregation, and who knows how many. I saw one Facebook thing that said I think we reached 250 with one video, which would be double our congregation size at least. So the concern of the personnel, as Kenny said, and how do you handle troubleshooting, especially when you don't have any time left.
Yes.
I can say ditto to those two. The technology part of it. Starting out, when we first started, it was my cell phone on a tripod, and that was it. And we were taking the sound out of the house speakers, and so it was there was no OBS or any other black magic stuff that Kenny's got. None of that. It was my cell phone, and that was it. And the audio was awful. The video was average, but it worked. And the biggest problem we had was getting church people to understand that we're trying to reach people that won't normally come to church. They were kind of hesitant at first because, well, people will stop coming. And that's actually not what happened. Just because they had an online option, it didn't stop them from coming to church. So we got over that hurdle. Then we got to the hurdle with the CCLI license, the streaming the music online. That's very important. We didn't have that. We're thankful that we didn't go very long with breaking those rules. We are compliant now. So it takes a little bit of money for that. And then getting the camera, getting the boxes. We've got boxes that go into computers and do all that transfer stuff with OBS, which is free. That's always great. But trying to get all the technology together, get all that stuff working out, and then having the money. I mean, overall, we've probably got $1,000 wrapped up into our equipment. Steve hit it on the head, where it doesn't have to be professional quality. They're not looking for professional quality. They're just looking for access to a church family. And so that's what's been helpful. But we still had those issues, those hurdles to try to overcome.
And Mark, if I could
add
one other thing. For our congregation, when this first started, it was my cell phone in my office just doing a sermon. And then I got one worship leader who was willing to come in, and one guy playing piano. And so we did it in the sanctuary. And a lot of them, with some of the discomfort of everything going on, they were happy to see the sanctuary, even though, it was empty. And it was my cell phone on a tripod at first. So they were happy to be able to have that sense of comfort, though. And along those lines, just to ditto something that Kolbi said, we do have some elders, though, that at least, I'll just say some, don't see the importance of look, we need to spend some money and get a new camera, whatever, we need to do this. And the COVID crisis did help push that along, which is a benefit of that. As Churchill said, never waste a crisis. So that did help a little bit with that, but we probably only put $400 into it, which isn't much considering. So
Yes. Well, Tanner, how about you guys there at Damascus, as far as a larger church goes? Any issues that you guys had to overcome?
I'd say our biggest thing was internet bandwidth and just getting that to be constant, because we were starting out, I started out doing OBS for streaming, and I was sitting there one day and my bandwidth just like disappeared. Our children's director was down in the kids area uploading a video to Facebook for the kids, and she pretty much shut us down because we only had very limited space. But so we're just like, okay, so we did our internet upgrade, and that helped, but we still having a couple issues here and there. So we've actually gone and working through a company called Living as One, and they handle our streaming, and they provide us with the equipment like to encode it to their service. But it actually, like, the best way to explain it is it keeps trying to resend the packets of information that you're sending out to the internet, and it'll capture all the things that might get missed. So if there's an internet glitch, and then it'll put piece it together on like a 2-minute delay and actually give you a good clean stream.
that's nice.
What is a good bandwidth that people should look for?
For upload speeds, probably between about 15 megs, 10 to 15 meg upload. Right now we have 20 here, but
Okay, and anything below that, you'll get the glitches?
yeah, if you're below 10, it depends on the quality of the video. If you're running at like a true high definition 1080p, then yeah, you'll definitely be having some glitches. But here at 720, you could probably get away with a little bit slower internet.
I think us for here at Beloit, I'll share mine real quick here and then ask the last question of you guys. Of course, our biggest problem is cutting off, and it's probably the bandwidth that you're talking about, Tanner, is as we're doing, and then our sound would cut out or something would cut out, and you'd have all these comments of, what happened to the sound? I can't hear Pastor Mark, or those kind of things. We're still kind of dealing with that, but we're looking at possibly doing one of the box that Kenny has as well to maybe help with some things that we had some issues. But we also actually had an issue with being muted by Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
The Facebook police got us 2 or 3 times and muted part of our service, and we weren't aware that we were doing anything wrong. We thought that our CCL license and our streaming license covered playing the song, and we found out that playing canned music is not covered. But if your worship team's playing it, it's fine. But even if it's covered in CCL license and you just play a CD or it's on a video or what have you, that you'll get muted on Facebook for breaking a copyright law. And I actually ended up calling CCLI about that to ask them, and they said, yeah, that's true. And we're working on a license that will help cover that. So hopefully they'll present something there that will help us out here. Well, last question for everybody, and is what advice would you have for a church that's beginning to try to provide an online presence, or one that's trying to improve their online presence? What's a good piece of advice that you would give somebody as you've worked through these things during this crisis?
Get a Tanner.
That's what I did.
Yes, that's right. Clone Tanner.
He's
Yes.
already told me he won't move to Portsmouth, Virginia, but getting somebody that has knowledge in that type of stuff is huge. I do have a couple of people that they help out. We've got a guy that goes to another church that comes in and helps with our soundboard. He's an IT guy. He helped us get started with OBS and all that stuff when we first started. And so having somebody with knowledge, don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to put it out there, even on Facebook, and saying, hey, I need some help. Check with other churches. There's plenty of churches. I'm sure. I mean, Tanner's helped out these other guys, and I'm sure if I was closer than 12 hours, he'd probably help me out. But you ask go to those big churches that have that stuff and say, hey, listen, we want to do online. We need some help. Can you guys help us? And they'll get you. We're all on the same team, so they'll get you some help. They'll give you their version of Tanner, and they'll help you out. So don't be afraid to start. Don't be afraid to ask the churches that are doing it, hey, how can I do this better? We got to all learn somehow, right?
Yeah. We're fortunate, but we walked through a progression. When we started, the very first time we started was my iPad and Facebook Live. Just push the little button, and that was it. And then I think we went to this little webcaster, this little Epiphan webcaster, and we used that and a little Sony camera, and we used that for a number of weeks. It worked really well until Tanner came over and kind of told us what we could do a little bit better, and we got some people together in the church that literally, this is how we did it. They donated the money so that we could upgrade. And that's what we did, because we're no different than you. We struggle, to find the dollars to put the best programming forward. And we had some people that stepped up and said, we want to make it a little bit better. So that's how we did it. But we did it, in steps, and they were baby steps. And every time we took a baby step, we thought we were just, on top of the world. And then you get a chance to talk to somebody who's doing a little bit better, and you can see where you can make some improvements. So Kolbi said it best, and I'll reiterate: just start somewhere, and don't be afraid to start, because we all made big mistakes. We can look back and laugh at it, but just a matter of a few weeks, you'll get used to it. You'll become, and you'll see your audience or congregation grow. And just to say how important that is, as we speak right now, some friends of mine are driving from South Florida all the way up here on their motorcycles, and they started coming back to church when we started streaming. And so there are people that are coming back, and we'll come back for your church. Just be there for them. Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, to the ends of the earth.
Yeah, and Mark, if I could add to that, definitely get Tanner's help or people from other churches. The other thing is, I think we need to look at the importance. I was in a seminar through Tom Rayner with Church Answers, I think is his organization, on reaching the next generation. And he said, if you don't have, and the next generation now is not millennials, it's the next generation beyond millennials. Those are the young 20-somethings. If you don't have internet stuff, social media, online presence, it's kind of like not having electric to them. It's something that's kind of assumed that you're going to do stuff that way, And so I think we need to see the high importance of it too.
Yeah. Anything you could add, Tanner?
Yeah, I think kind of just reiterate what Kenny said, like, don't be afraid to take a step and towards online. Like, I went through a lot of different iterations of online church to get to where we are in just this couple months, just to, make sure that we were getting our services to home. And I think the biggest thing is just make sure that the people at home are getting the feel of what you're having in person, because that's exactly what it is. Like, we look at online not as just like online church, but we look at it as an actual campus, because we're a multi-site church. So our multi-site is Damascus, Salem, Canton, Malvern, and online. And I recommend even just like having like a host, someone that can actually chat and communicate with people on Facebook, because we do that, and we've seen salvations online just from talking to people.
That's awesome.
Wonderful.
I think that would be a good idea. A lot of times on Sunday mornings, I've tried to pull up the Facebook Live on my phone so I can respond to any comments, but it would be good. I think Kenny's done this too, where you can have somebody there just to watch and reply to any comments.
Real-time conversations while the message is going on, or they have a question. Somebody's right there and can pray for them, pray with them, let them know. And it's almost like having an online pastor.
Yeah.
And it's their connection via keyboard to the church.
And I think that's probably going to be, and some churches have already done it, creating a position for an online director at minimum, or an online pastor
Yeah.
for real that's like that. Well, thank you guys for your time. Went a little bit over, and I don't know if you noticed, but on my screen they said, congratulations, we extended your time above the 40 minutes. Do you like us? And I said, I love it. So I think we're all there, but I appreciate it. We may get some questions out of this that come back, because I believe they're going to give them some kind of way to respond to these workshops. And if we do, it might be directed to one of you guys. There might be some correct questions there. If it comes, we'll make sure.
Call Tanner.
Call Tanner. Yeah.
That's it.
We, Tanner, you're going to. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put you on that spot.
That's okay.
That's the answer to every question that it gets asked to me is call Tanner. I don't even care if it's not even online stuff. I'm still going to tell them call Tanner.
Call Tanner. Oh no, Tanner, you better fill out your what do you call it, the W-4 form or whatever for Portsmouth Friends. Get your paycheck from him, because Kolbi's going to send you work.
And we don't have money to pay you.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate
you.
it so much. And folks, we hope that this part of the workshop has been beneficial for you. Maybe it's caused you to think. Maybe it's given you some answers. And we're just praying that the online presence for EFCER throughout Eastern Region is growing and being fruitful. Like Tanner said, even some online salvation that happens. And it's all for the glory of God. Thank you guys, and we will sign off for now. I hope you found that beneficial for you. I appreciate all those guys stepping in and providing some insight from their personal experience, and giving us some things to work with here on this developing and maybe even improving our online presence for the church. And just a couple things to sum up, and just as reminders. And first and foremost, being able to see this as an opportunity that God has put before us to be able to have another avenue or venue to present the gospel to people that really need it. And thinking about the Acts 1:8 and the uttermost parts of the world to the ends of the earth. The virtual world is that, like we said there. And just remembering a little bit too about sometimes the things that we're ignorant of, we don't know a lot about, we fear, and therefore we just avoid it. And that's one thing that I see a lot in different people that I've come in contact with. But we don't have to fear that. As we gain knowledge, knowledge is power. I remember hearing that as a little kid. And the more we know, the more that we can gain confidence. And that's part of the process. And just starting somewhere. I would encourage you, begin with prayer. As you do that, then you can add the things that are there. But of course, first is prayer, first and foremost, and asking the Lord to guide, direct, and all of that. But some things to remember: that a good high definition camera is an important thing. It makes for a much better presentation. Be sure to have that good internet bandwidth, nothing less than 15 meg for upload speed or upload. And then your streaming service, whatever you use, something like OBS is a downloadable program that you can utilize, and or if you've got some money to spend, that Black Magic switcher that Kenny talked about, and then the platforms that you have, YouTube, Facebook, churchonlineplatform.com, outreach.com, etc., whatever's out there that you find. And you can search that on Google, but make sure the platform connects with your church. As you heard them say, some work better in theirs than the others, and so do that. And then vital is that the resource person, somebody you can go to that's knowledgeable in your neighborhood or in a local church that's already doing it that you can kind of work with. That's good as well. Those are some things I think that you can take away that will be beneficial. And just a suggestion too that you might want to think about is, to get the personnel, create a position in the church of an online outreach director or online minister, however you want to call it, that someone to take a little bit of the load off, so it's not just falling on the pastor or somebody like that, but and then invest in it. That meaning training and time, because it is going to take time. But think as you do, you'll see the opportunities happen, the doors open, and remember, the people are looking and they're searching, and now is a great time. The doors open, and God's opened the door and give us the opportunity. Let's take advantage of it. Thanks again for joining us. And if you have any questions to present to us or what have you, you can send them to EFCER, or you can send it beloitfriends@yahoo.com, and we'll endeavor to get those answered for you and get back to you. Thank you so much for joining us, and hope you have a blessed day.